One game I remember playing a long time ago was Karate Champ. This game was a big influencer in not just fighting games, but games in general. It was one of the earliest to introduce competitive gaming, and it also introduced what we typically refer to now as the Shoto characters. The characters Ryu and Ken themselves are basically references to the original palette swap Player 1 and Player 2 Karate Champ characters. But I'm not here to talk about them. I will instead talk about the one who we've seen and heard about many times before, but didn't get his first playable appearance until Street Fighter 4. And that of course is Ryu and Ken's master, Master Goken. So jumping immediately into one of the reasons I like this character is that one of his win quotes in this game is actually a reference to a video game myth. If some of you have played Street Fighter 2, you'll know that Ryu has a quote in that game that says you must defeat Shenlong in order to stand a chance. However, that was actually a translation error. He was meant to say you must defeat my Shoryuken to stand a chance. But of course the name Shenlong led to a lot of myths and theories about there being a secret hidden character in the original game, which of course didn't exist. So yeah, Goken is also often jokingly referred to as Shenlong, and in Street Fighter 4 they of course pay homage to this myth by having one of Goken's win quotes be, "You must defeat me to stand a chance." That right there is a bloody awesome quote. Goken is also just a really cool, humble old fella. I love how he constantly watches over both Ryu and Ken, even in their adult years, and while he no longer considers himself their master, because he sees they have grown into their own, the fact that he still watches out for them is what I really like about the character. So his personality, being the wise, sage-like father figure, I always did gravitate towards characters like that as well. Also, another reason why I like him, he has parries. Come on, you know I like characters with parries. It's also a nice bonus that he's actually a pretty good character gameplay-wise, especially when you get the swag on people. And while Goken isn't playable in Street Fighter V, I was still happy to see that he was involved in Ryu's character story, still helping him find the meaning behind his fists, his feet, his face, and generally just being there to support him. So yep, all those right there is why Goken is in my number 5. Love this old bastard.
No holds barred. It's just what every girl wants.
Continuing the trend of characters that were first introduced in Street Fighter 4, Super Street Fighter 4 gave us several new characters as well, and one of those characters was the new evil Taekwondo anarchist, Judy Han. In a game series where a lot of the ladies are either good, neutral, or they're brainwashed against their will, Judy was the first legit evil nutcase by choice. As you can imagine, quite a lot of people like that. Of course, that's not to say you can just make a woman evil and she's immediately gonna be liked. You of course need to express her evil charisma and her anarchistic ways through a lot of her gameplay and her personality. And thankfully, Street Fighter 4 did that perfectly. From her dialogue to her animations to her gameplay, Judy is fully aware that she knows she has got it going on. And even the big bads of Street Fighter 4 are fully aware of this as well, as Seth and M. Bison do not underestimate her. Another interesting thing I found with Judy is that she's actually pretty similar to Abigail in Street Fighter V. Let me explain. The one thing that makes her similar to him is that both of them treat their opponents like they're toys. Their opponent is merely a plaything to them, because Abigail is a giant man who sees everyone as a tiny action figure. Judy is very similar to Abigail in that regard. But the one thing that's different is that while Abigail breaks his toys, Judy sees her opponent as food that is to be slowly savored, kinda like a spider that ensnares its prey, paralyzes it, and then slowly drains the body of its innard, savoring the meal. Hence the spider theme with her default design. That's kind of Judy to a T. And of course there is no denying, if you couldn't tell already, Judy is one crazy, sexy woman, and as noted before, she's fully aware of this, whether she's dicking around with her opponent or whoever's in front of her.
Wow. Back for another beating, officer? Or maybe you've got a little schoolgirl crush. Ha! You dare insult these curves? I'm gonna make you flat. Come on, attack me from wherever you want. This is the end for you! That felt good to me.
Ladies and gentlemen, the ultimate Street Fighter!
It's also an added benefit that Judy's playstyle is very fun and very viable at the same time. And while I don't think she's as good in Street Fighter V, she is still very fun to play due to the fact that she delights in every moment. Seriously, I can only imagine how much fun the voice actor had recording her lines. But yep, Judy's Taekwondo style mixed with her Feng Shui engine definitely makes her a joy to watch and a joy to play. Regardless of whether you're just figuring her out or you happen to be pretty skilled with her in the long run, Judy, she's definitely here to stay. Or at least I hope she does. Also, while she isn't as good in Street Fighter V, there is one thing they did buff about the character. They made her ridiculously thick. Even though she temporarily aligned with the good side in Street Fighter V, this character has already earned the status of boss. You could put her as the next boss in the next Street Fighter game, and everyone will be completely on board with that. I know I will. Whether it's a versus game or a new mainline Street Fighter game, I hope Judy Han will be there because she more than deserves it. Whether there's anarchy or whether there's peace, she's gonna be there to cause trouble regardless. And that's just the way we like it.
Wow. Guess I better find a new hobby.
That's incredible! Totally awesome!
Note to self, bring a gun against Zangief. Spoiler, guns don't work. Growing up with old school fighting games, I didn't really have a type of character that I gravitated towards at the time. That is except for one that stood out like a sore thumb amongst a colourful roster of characters. And what would stand out amongst them? Very simple. A big motherfucker. And that's exactly who we have at my number 3 spot. One of the original World Warriors, Zangief, the Soviet mountain of muscle. Known for wrestling bears just to get stronger, Zangief left one hell of an impact due to his size and that he was also based on a wrestler of the same name. Before his name was finalized as Zangief, however, one of his original placeholder names was Vodka Gubalski, very similar to Vodka Drunkinski in Punch-Out before his name was changed to Soda Popinski. But, you know, Zangief is better. As a grappler, Zangief's about as good as they come. He does a lot of damage up close, which is of course the one place you don't want him to be. But, if you couldn't tell just by looking at him, he's a very huggy person. Interestingly, however, the one thing that I found the most fascinating is that in other mediums that aren't games, Zangief is perceived as a villain, which he actually isn't. in the game, he's a good fella. But if some of you remember the first Wreck-It Ralph movie, where Zangief's like, I say, Zangief, you're a bad guy, but that doesn't mean you're a bad guy. Yeah, I don't know where they got that from. I think it's because of the live action movie with Jean-Claude Van Damme, where he actually was a villain in that movie. Albeit, it's because he actually thought he was doing something good. So he was just easily manipulated. But in the games, he actually is a good fella. Very humble, very respectful, and he genuinely wants to help people through the power of muscle spirit.
Just one more. I need to keep working on my muscle spirit.
Zangief in Street Fighter 4? Now that's where I truly began learning this character. Believe it or not, it wasn't until Street Fighter 4 I properly learned how to do full circle and quarter circles and all that other jazz. And Zangief in this game, because of his green palm forward thingy and the grab range that he has on his command throws, this is what makes him a serious threat in this game. Similar to Judy, he's a bit better in 4 than he is in 5, but I still do love him in 5. Just the way he moves and the way he grabs you and all the different tools he has, that's what makes him just so bloody... You just feel so strong when you play this fella. Also, this. Just watch.
I've never seen anything like this!
You can't have a Tekken game without the wrestler King. And you can't have a Street Fighter game without the wrestler Zangief. Street Fighter 3 tried that, didn't work out too well. So Zangief more than deserves the number 3 spot as one of the greatest all-time Street Fighter characters.
The winner is the Russian Wrestling Dynamo of Iron Muscle, the invincible Red Cyclone, Zangief!
Jumping back to Shoto characters, when you ask people who their favorite is, quite a few of them will say Dan Hibiki, and that's for a good reason. 1, he's hilarious, and 2, he's basically a clone of a clone. Some of you will know Ryo Kusanagi from SNK, and how he was pretty much based off Ryu. Well, that's Dan, and the fact that he's a parody of another clone is pretty freaking hilarious. And Sakura is also another favorite among Street Fighter and fighting game fans in general, given how she's the energetic high school martial artist who aspires to be just like the main character, Ryu, being overly hyper and overly excited, and she also has this neat little dance that carries over from game to game, which started back in the Alpha series. So yeah, that's neat. But come on, for those of you who have known me for a while, already know who my favorite of the Shotos is. At number 2, we have the Master of the Fist, Goken, also known as Akuma. Now this fella was everywhere ever since he first debuted in Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo as the secret, true final boss. Seriously, Akuma's influence was so big, after that you saw a palette swap of Ryu, which was basically evil Ryu, and then you had Violent Ken. There was even an evil version of Sakura and Dan, and that all eventually led to, evil Ryu in Street Fighter 4, then you had Kage, and then you had Oni, which was basically an evil-er Akuma. Even though Akuma's not actually evil, he just follows the dark path of the demon in order to be the strongest there is. And with how cool this character is, it still pisses me off he wasn't in Marvel Infinite. Anyway, through Akuma's constant training and pursuit of strong, worthy opponents, he is also keeping an eye on Ryu, similar to Goken, seeing how he is in his training because he wants Ryu to be the strongest as well as fully embrace the Dark Hadou. That of course doesn't happen, and eventually later down the line, when he sees that Ryu has fully embraced his humanity as well as Minu Hado, the power of nothingness, Akuma wishes to test just how powerful he has become as a result of embracing the power of nothingness. Whether it's Minu Hado or the Satsui no Hado, Ryu and Akuma both want the same thing, and that's to be the strongest they can be. However, they both go about it in different ways, obviously. Akuma wants to put himself above divinity and mortality to prove that he is the superior fighter, whereas Ryu, along the way, he pretty much wants to prove that he has the power to push forward no matter what. So to him, not only does he want to be the strongest, but he wants to be the strongest in order to protect others, whereas Akuma wants to be the strongest so he can obliterate weakness. However, Akuma does have a code of honor. He only fights people who he sees are worthy, which is of course referenced in the game how Akuma has some of the lowest health amongst the characters. Basically, when he fights, that's the game's way of saying that he's actually holding back. And I think that's pretty fucking cool. And when it comes to talking about Akuma, we of course need to talk about this. Akuma in Tekken 7. Fuck yeah! Tekken 7 is a prime example of you truly can have the best of both worlds. And the way they recreated Akuma in Tekken 7, bringing over his mechanics, bringing over his iconic look, that is just fucking Mickey! Geese Howard is still my favorite guest character, but man, Akuma just friggin' knocked it out of the park when he was put into this game. The way they implemented his EX moves with his super meter mechanics, gotta bloody love that. And also, he does still keep his code of honor when they have him in the story mode. If anything, he's pretty much a good guy in this game, seeing as how he's taken on the Mishima family, seeing as how all of them are pretty much pricks. The Tekken team also didn't receive any assets when putting Akuma in this game. They made him from scratch based off their own knowledge. So it's pretty obvious they love the character more than I do. So one of my favorite Street Fighter characters in one of my all-time fighting game franchises, oh man, that's just a win-win all around, can't go wrong there. Also, we of course need to talk about the Raging Demon. So yeah, actually no, we won't talk about it. Let's just watch the magic happen. I will never get tired of seeing that. So yep, my second favorite Street Fighter character of all time goes to the Master of the Fist, Akuma. But who's my number one? You know, looking back and remembering how disappointing Street Fighter V was at launch, and comparing it to where the game is now, it actually makes me really happy that I stuck with this game. I mean, I dabbled in it every now and then, and I didn't actually own it for a while, but back in 2017, I did pick the game back up. And that was because, well, over time this game did eventually get fun to play again. They added a lot more, and this game really came back in full swing around 2018 and especially in 2019. But another thing that I gotta give credit to Street Fighter V for, this game gave me my number one Street Fighter character of all time. And you never would have guessed that it would have been this awesome weirdo right here.
From the very bottom of my soul and with the deepest of sincerity, that I am firmly resolute in my undertaking, that I will not yield to anyone or anything until I accomplish what I set out to do. together, you and I will become one with Earth. I swear, the Earth and its people shall become one. Power to the people of Earth.
Number 1 is the President of the World, G. When people saw this character's gameplay, this immediately made everyone say, "Oh yeah, this is the character. This is what the game needed." G is so weird and so mysterious that even though he constantly spouts his entire goal, which is to unite the people of Earth, and that he calls himself the President of the World, there is still so much mystery around this one character that you can't help but be fascinated with him. And he's weird in all the right ways. And not to mention, he is easily the swaggiest, smoothest character that Street Fighter has ever seen in a very long time. Put in the simplest way, G is what you would get if you took Michael Jackson, took Abraham Lincoln, took some of the Earth's hot, boiling, molten core, put it in a blender, mixed that shit together, and the end result would be this tall, extravagant child of Mother Gaia. They say a first impression is everything, and G is a prime example of that. He left one hell of a first impression when it came to the original arcade edition trailer where he was teased, and then when it came to his gameplay reveal trailer, wow. Yep, everyone was impressed and everyone wanted to know more about G as well as get their hands on him. However, everything you need to know about this character can basically be summed up with this track that played in his trailer.
Amongst all bosses, the last fight after you lost. You're gonna wanna learn all you can about this mountainous, miraculous mode of a man new. President of the world, he just appointed himself. Be happy you don't have to think for yourself. A tall top hat with decorations, wears a black bow tie. Guess the stranger sings out there. He's ready for action. Sleeves rolled up, a pocket watch in his jacket. Small areas on his skin, looks like he got gold tattoos in it. Hold up, let's look a bit closer. A map of the globe appears to be the focus. On his right arm, as if to conquer it, he got in gold the American continent. President out!
And even with all of that, whether it's fans of the game or the actual characters in the story, nobody can truly tell who or what G even is. And that level of mystique around the character just makes him that much more awesome to me. Sometimes you don't need to know everything about a certain character. The mere mystery around them makes them interesting enough, and it holds your interest for a very, very long time. Also, remember how I said in part 1 that Smug, the Street Fighter V player, had a really good Dudley? Well, look at the shit he could do with G!
Acting like you won't get command grabbed. Acting like you won't get command grabbed. Sit down. Acting like you won't get command grabbed. You still gotta guess.
So what more can I say? Capcom made an amazing character with amazing gameplay, with amazing smooth animations, with an amazing level of skill that makes you feel even more amazing when you master it. Oh yeah, that's right. And his amazing smooth music. there you have it. That concludes my 2-part series of my top 10 favorite Street Fighter characters. If you have any favorite Street Fighter characters, let me know in the comments below. But until then, feel free to leave a like, or dislike, I'm okay with either one. And I will hopefully see you all next time. But until then, thank you for watching, fellow citizens of the Earth. Kakite.